Hello there. This is a video I've been wanting to do for quite some time now, but finding the right road with the right weather conditions at the same time has been a bit tricky. But this evening we've got the road, we've got the weather conditions, so I'm going to send Lassie up and she is going to do the ultimate one battery range test. So this is my wife's car and she's driving it, and the way that this range test is going to work, so that I can comply with the CAA regulations by keeping the drone in visual line of sight at all times and keeping her within 500 metres, is that we're going to drive along this road, or my wife's going to drive along this road, and I'll be in the passenger car. Lassie will be flying above and in front of us so that I can keep my eye on her at all times. And although I want to go in as straight a line as possible, that I can't veer too much away from the road. If it's going to take me beyond line of sight or 500 metres, then I have to stay as close to the road within that. So I'm going to keep a straight line as much as possible, but I'm still going to stay quite close to the road. The car will be behind us, and I can look up and see Lassie at all times. Just for your interest, I'm filming this at 1080p and I don't have any filters on, and I think that there we go, have a look at the footage there. It looks pretty good at 1080p. It may be slightly crisper if I used 4K, but I'm pretty happy with that result there. Now you see, if you look down, it looks like the road has completely disappeared, and it has from Lassie's point of view, but from the car's point of view you can just see the road down there on the right hand side at the bottom right corner. From our point of view, because Lassie is quite high up, I can still see her as we're driving along above the treetops. And there we go, that says just past 3,000 feet. And if you take a look at the height here, the height says 96 feet. Now, she's not actually flying at 96 feet. If you look, these trees are about maybe 35 to 40 feet high, and she's only slightly above those. So I reckon she's flying at maybe 60 feet. But because the ground is constantly rising, then I have to keep increasing Lassie's altitude. So it's going to look at the telemetry if she is at some points in this flight going above 400 metres. She's going above the home point, and will be 400 metres above the home point, but she won't actually be 400 metres above the ground. So they were just past 5,000 feet. My wife is driving the car steadily at about 20 to 25 miles per hour. So there are cars. Occasionally, it's a very narrow road. It's only a single road, so occasionally we'll pull into a passing place and let cars pass us. But it's quite good because Lassie's taken a more direct route. So although she is only flying at 17 to 18 miles per hour, if we travel along at about 20 to 25, it means that I can keep her in my visual line of sight because the road is winding more than Lassie's direct path. 7,000 feet. And I am increasing Lassie's height a bit because we are going uphill all of the time, and although it says 325 feet, she's not. She's maybe 70 or 80 feet above the ground at the moment. Just past 10,000 feet now. A lot of people have asked, why do I have my telemetry in Imperial instead of metric, because even though we're in Europe. In Scotland and in England, Northern Ireland and Wales, and I believe probably Ireland too, we use both systems, Imperial and metric. I'm an older guy, so I remember times before the metric system was introduced into this country, and I find that Imperial makes more sense to me. We don't talk about kilometres travelled, we talk about miles travelled, so it makes sense for me to use feet and miles rather than metres and kilometres when we're talking about travelling. If I'm measuring something maybe inside the house, apart the dimensions of a room or something, then yeah, I would use metres and centimetres then. Now, as you see, I've just got the message there telling me that my flight altitude exceeds 390 feet, and there is the first low battery warning with 66% battery power still in it. I am ignoring the flight altitude warning there, and because I know that it says, although it says I'm flying at 436 feet, it's not 436 feet above the ground. We're about 100 feet above the ground at the moment. The reason that Lassie is in front of us and the car is behind is because this is actually our second attempt at this test, and the previous attempt I had Lassie following the car so that I could keep the car in Lassie's line of sight, but the problem there was the antenna on the controller couldn't pick Lassie up very well, and I kept losing signal. And when we switched and put Lassie in front of us, the signal was strong all the time, so that's why Lassie is slightly ahead of the car at all times. Not that far, she's maybe 100, 200 metres, 300 the very most. Sometimes she'll go ahead of the car, but she's just above and just ahead, so that I can, from the passenger seat through the windscreen, I can see her quite clearly. Now the reason that I've been getting some return to home battery warnings is because the home point is still where we launched, and the drone realises that there may only be enough battery power to get me back home from here, so it wants to return now, knowing that if we go any further there won't be enough juice in the battery to get back home. But we're not flying her back to the home point. We're flying her forward as far practically as we can. This is where it gets a bit tricky, because there are various routes that you can take here to get to the point where I want to fly. And although I want to keep Lassie in as straight a line as possible, I still have to be careful that she remains in my visual line of sight. So picking the right road here proved just a little bit troublesome, and my wife had to back up. We chose the wrong road at one point. This was the road that we chose here, and it wasn't right, so she had to back up, and I've edited the video here to allow to show where we picked back up. That's the white car there, that's my wife and I, both in the white car. So I'm just looking at the back window at the moment and the side window so I can see Lassie, and then once she gets in front of us, I'm looking out the front window again. And as you can see, it says 485 feet. Well, there's no way that's 485 feet above the road there. This little river on the left is the River Afton, which Robert Burns mentions quite a few times in some of his poetry. Probably the most famous one of all is the poem that was turned into a song, which is called Flow Gently, Sweet Afton. So we're reaching the end of the road here, and there's a little parking area just ahead in between those trees. You can see a few cars parked there. So this is where my wife is going to pull in and park, and I'm going to get out and walk a little bit further. So I'm going to have to slow Lassie down a bit here. Obviously I can't keep up with her at a driving pace if I'm on my feet. getting a low battery warning just here, and I've decided that instead of pushing her on a little bit further, I'm just going to halt her here. Just take her beyond into 23,000 feet away. And there is the limit that she reaches, 23,023 feet, I think is the furthest that I actually take her forward to. Take her forward a couple more feet. There we go, 23,023 feet. And that's the furthest point. Now, could I have pushed her on a bit further? Yeah, probably. I could have continued walking and pushed her on a bit, but the low battery warning was going, and I knew she was about to have the critical low battery warning any second. So I decided, well, that's plenty. That's enough for the test. Could have got a little more out of her, but that'll do. And we'll just head her back to the car now. And she flies all the way down to the car. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.